What's up, guys? Welcome back to Sit Down with Sid Podcast. This is your host, Sid, and our guest today is the founder and president of StretchMed Studios, which is the industry's largest one-on-one assisting stretching franchise model in the Northeast. They deliver 36 stretches from head to toe in 50 minutes, and they opened their first location on November 16, 2019 in Wellesley, Massachusetts, has over 25 locations till date and are still growing. That being said, it's my honor to welcome Brian Cook. Hi, Brian. How are you doing today?
Hey, Sid. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Brian, for taking the time from your busy schedule to be our guest. We appreciate it. So, Brian, before we kind of get into the podcast, would you mind taking a couple of minutes to introduce yourself, a little bit about your background to our audience?
Yeah, sure. Let me try to. I'll keep it brief. So, I'm a health and fitness entrepreneur. StretchMed is my fourth company in 28 years. I'm approaching almost 200 units across the 4 different brands. So I've spent pretty much my whole adult life in this boutique fitness space and just love it. Was really lucky to find my passion early. I have I started personal training in a health club when I was 20 years old during college, and then opened up a brick and mortar one-on-one studio at 23 with some help from my dad. And then, got into franchising back in 2006. So at the time I had my first brick and mortar one-on-one studio, try to expand it, robbing Peter to pay Paul, got to second, got to the third store, then had my first store of expansion, closed one, sold one, and then spent from 1999 to 2001 really perfecting my one-on-one model. I think I was 25 or 26 at the time, was making $100,000 a year, loved what I was doing, and just said, geez, I bet you other people would like to do this. So looked at franchising, that concept, and in the process discovered another franchise, and it was a company called Fitness Together out in Arizona, Colorado. So bought the rights to Massachusetts as an area representative, sold 60 franchises, got 40 open, sold that for 1.2 million, and then started my own franchise, which is called Get in Shape for Women, small group fitness concept for women. We took that concept from 1 to 100 locations in 16 states in 5 years, went through a big disruption. And then I guess what got me into stretching, which is pretty exciting, is that right around 2015, a family friend had asked me out for coffee to get some advice. So I met with him and was like, sure. And he asked me about the stretching concept. And at the time, I never heard of it. I said, wow, I've never heard of that. Sounds interesting. And my advice was, if you open in a great territory, I'm sure you do fine. So we went our separate ways. And then 2017, I saw the Stretch Labs, the Stretch Zones, and it's starting to take off. I remember the meeting with the family friend. And then I also remembered when I left the fitness franchise that I joined, that owner bought the first Elements massage concept back in 2001. And he asked me if I wanted to get involved. And I literally said, Rick, I don't see massage becoming a big thing. Mm-hmm. And there's thousands of massage therapy studios now. So I completely missed that whole 20-year run. So I just said, geez, I'm not going to miss out on stretch. So just, went around the country, really looked at the competition, got super granular, put my fact finder brain on, and then created StretchMed with the help of athletic trainers, muscle therapists, other guys on my team with ex-phys degrees like myself, and we really put together a killer stretch. And we opened up in Wellesley, had some great success. One of the fitness owners bought one of the first franchises. One of the first members then bought 3 franchises. Then COVID hit, so we had to go through that little COVID spell, which was interesting. And then we came out the other side. Started 2022 with 7 locations, ended with 25, which was a great. And now we have about 5 more about to open. So we project we'll be at probably 50, 60, 70 locations at the end of 2023.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, super excited.
So I assume since you were already working in this health industry, you were in franchise. That's how the idea of franchising your business came into your mind. Like, why do you want to franchise? Why do you want to create a franchise model? That's my question.
Yeah, great question. So for me, it's the most amazing pathway to wealth creation that there really is,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're a creator. So what happens? You get to kind of create a model, and then you get to you essentially licensing other people the ability to operate that model and for a royalty, initial fee and a royalty, and then also you're protecting the intellectual property is highly protected at least for 2 years in an 8 mile radius around all the locations.
Mm-hmm.
So just and with the other side starting as an area rep, doing that for 6 years, and then as a franchisor for 15, 16 years now, it's kind of in our wheelhouse. The whole end-to-end spectrum of franchising is just a great, it's a great method to grow a company.
But I'm sure with the growth on such scale comes a lot of regulations and as well. Because the reason I ask you is I've always been curious to know you as a brand when you are franchising your brand, how much control do you have over that? I mean to say, how much right do you have in terms of legal aspects, liability aspects, insurance aspects? Would you mind taking a moment to give us
Yeah,
details on that?
yeah. So it's a lot easier than people think. So I'll just put it that way. So I think the world sees it as a very difficult thing.
Mm-hmm.
The lawyers have done a good job making it appear difficult, and it's actually pretty easy, particularly if you start in non-registration states. So there's only 14 states that are difficult to franchise in: New
Mm-hmm.
York, California, Illinois, Maryland, Virginia. Like, so initially stay away from those 14 states. It's simply creating you need a trademark,
Mm-hmm.
you need an operations manual, you
Mm-hmm.
need franchise documents, and you need proof of concept, and then you essentially have a franchise. So but in terms of like the liability, you need to have good insurance, right? So if something happens at the franchisee level and you get sued, you're covered. The control is you have incredible control. You just, you know, you may have to send default letters here and there. You may have to have a lawyer get involved here and there. But for the most part, most owners really want to follow the system. There's very, very few that just become problematic.
Okay. So I also want to ask you, like, for example, you are the founder and the president, and I became one of your franchisee. I opened one of these Stretch Med Studios franchise. Now, do I have any say on how I operate being in the
No,
local market, or is that uniform company standards that we have to follow?
it's uniform. We're always going to listen, right? We're going to listen to anything that's happening differently to the local market, but for the most part, um, it would be no, because the more you tinker with the model, the
Mm-hmm.
more you're turning it into a mom and pop and then inserting yourself into it. So what we're teaching you to do is this is a widget. You're
Mm-hmm.
now an analyst. You're going to hire a manager to run it, and you're going to
Mm-hmm.
step back. And that's really the way we try to get people to think about this. It's like the more you, not that it can't work your way,
Mm-hmm.
it's just it inserts you into the day to day, which is what I want you to do. I want you to sit back, be an investor,
Mm-hmm.
study the analytics, analyze the data, look for
Mm-hmm.
opportunities, coach up your manager, let him or her know you care about him, and build a team. But don't get into like, let me change this and change that and do this. And yeah, we definitely don't want that.
And then how much do you have the say in the operations of that local franchise? The reason I'm bringing this up again and again is, for example, if one of your franchisee is doing good versus the other one who is not doing good, but they both are following the same company standards, which are imposed by you, do you have any say on the operations, or you're like, you know what, this is your responsibility, you need to figure out the marketing strategy, etc., etc.?
Yeah, that's a great question. So to me, I've never seen that happen in 22 years of franchising. So as a franchisor, we give you a system to follow and it doesn't work,
Mm-hmm.
then we get very worried. I've never
Okay.
seen a case where a franchisee is struggling or failing not in following the system. And the reason we know this is because we'll secret shop the stores. What we're doing to ensure your success is, one, we're white gloving the opening process. So we're personally approving the territory. First of all, selecting the right owner,
Mm-hmm.
approve the right territory, making sure you have the right population density with the right wealth. Then we're going to pick the right location within that territory, the right plaza, national tenants, the right visibility, the right parking, the right tenant mix. Then it's negotiating the right lease, making
Mm-hmm.
sure you have automatic provisions to sell your business to another franchisee. You don't need landlord approval, blah blah
Mm-hmm.
blah. Just make sure the lease is tight, because without a lease, you don't have a business. The fifth thing is helping you hire the right manager,
Mm-hmm.
helping you hire the right assistant manager, and you're good to go. So we yeah, it's very unlikely. I'd say with most franchises, if they're pretty granular in detail. So the
Mm-hmm.
other thing is we have an entire marketing. We spin up all your marketing. We have an outside vendor, like highly experts in this area.
Mm-hmm.
We also are right now bringing on an outside sales training company where help you generate leads. We've got a SDRs are going to work those leads. Then your inside manager will convert leads on the table. And
Mm-hmm.
we brought in another consultant that's just going to train managers
Mm-hmm.
exclusively. So he started actually this week.
Mm-hmm.
And we work with you as the owner. Josh develops you and everyone else's manager, right? Weekly Zoom, monthly 2 hour, weekly hour, monthly 2 hours, quarterly 4 hours, annually full day. So if there's a problem at the store level with your manager, he can go to Josh. Josh can come to us. We solve. So the problems don't trickle up to the owners. We can be free to work with you. Josh
Mm-hmm.
works the manager, like I said, and then you open more units.
So you pretty much, from what I can tell, spend pretty hefty on the operations as well as the training side. Correct me if I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah, it's just like an exact system from start to finish. It's
Okay.
just because if it's not fully articulated and there's a lot of things left out, owners have to figure it out. Franchise owners are now kind of figuring it out. And like you said, if two people follow the system, one's failing,
Mm-hmm.
something is really wrong, like terribly wrong. That should never happen.
So I know you brought up finding the right owner. So in your being as a franchisor, what is the definition of a right owner? How do
Yeah,
you define an owner right?
the right owner would be a student. It's because what I've learned in 22 years of picking owners, some people that are really good in other areas are the
Mm-hmm.
worst owners, because they don't check their egos at the door. They want to take that expertise at this other company ABC and
Mm-hmm.
somehow think it's going to translate into this, and it doesn't translate. So if someone who's going to come in and just get an education in boutique fitness this particular way, it's a brand new thing. Some skills translate, of course, but for the most part, just be a student, learn. Just like if I was going to enter your world of podcasting, the
Right.
last thing I'm going to do is start to tell you how we should be doing podcasting, because I've never run a podcast before. So be a student, learn, execute. Now,
Mm-hmm.
once you are a top owner executing the current system, of course, we're gonna take your feedback and potentially massage some of the systems, but not in the beginning.
Got it. I also want to talk about the COVID thing. I mean, since you're a one-on-one, kind of franchise model, due to the COVID restrictions, I mean, how were you able to deal with that kind of downtrend in your, curve of your business model, or per se the disruption that you had, and come out of it?
Yeah, so luckily the StretchMed was one-on-one training, so we got to go back early. So we were deemed I'm not sure if they deemed us essential like chiropractic, but at least we got to go back when personal service users got to go back. So that was really good. The fitness got really banged up. So we have fitness concepts, group fitness concepts that didn't get lit up till way later.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So we were good. It was it was problematic as you know, but we we did get PPP, we did get some funding, never enough money, but we survived.
Great. And what is now, do you, as a business owner, do you have like a 3 to 5 term year goal, or do you do annual goals in terms of number of franchises? I know you started with 5, 2022, and you ended up with close to over 22 locations, something like that. So my thing is, do you set a 12-month yearly goal? Like, okay, give me a little bit more insight on your kind of, the goals of your company.
Yeah. So for me, starting StretchMed helped me really get clear what my passions are, what I love to do. So I love to create companies from scratch. That's what I like.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna focus on StretchMed until we get to about 300 units.
Mm-hmm.
We recently brought on 400 franchise brokers nationwide. We're in the process of developing an inside sales team, probably 10 people inside sales, external brokers, to make sure we hit that goal. And then after we hit 300, I'll put a president in place. I'll step back, and I'm going to start another company called Franchise Your Gym. So we're going to help health and fitness entrepreneurs franchise their concepts. Take a small equity stake and then take them from the incubation, creation stage all the way up the ladder.
So, I mean, I can tell you're like what's the right word you can say? Avid entrepreneur, you like to come up with new companies and so forth and scale them, which is great. And so I want to ask, like, why did you choose stretching as the core of your business, to expand on?
So to me, if you look at the industry, right? So look at the different verticals. Physical therapy been around forever. It helps people with a particular injury. Chiropractic then hit the scene. Skeletal system, 7-minute adjustments, right? Massage therapy hit the scene. Soft tissue. So now stretch therapy is just a completely new vertical. So nothing else has ever stretched every joint in your body for 50 minutes. Nothing. If you think about the aging process, it begins with the loss of range of motion. I mean, that's where it all begins. The minute you don't move and you sit behind at a podcast desk all day or at an office all day, our bodies weren't designed to do this. Right. So StretchMed is essentially going to help fight the aging process and reverse a lot of things that we've done to our bodies over the years. So and then I saw the industry emerging. So I wasn't the first one in by any stretch, but just I look at it as that we were able to came in at the right time. We studied our competitors and just built a much more nimble, scalable model that we can open in as little as 300 square feet, 1,200 square feet, high traffic, prime retail locations.
So, Brian, let me ask you now, if I was to come here as an investor or say, I would ask you a question. Brian, how does you differentiate stretching with yoga? Because yoga is actually an Ayurvedic form of stretching.
Yeah, so the difference is yoga is active stretching. StretchMed is passive stretching. So I get you to end range. I get you to relax. I'm like, all right, Sid, I want you to push against me. I want you to fire hamstring against me 15 seconds. Push, and then I'm gonna say relax, and we're gonna go deeper. So we'll do a PNF stretch on your hamstring. So we can just get you. We can go much deeper because you're resting, deep breathing, and it's just like completely different than yoga. Completely different.
And are you expanding just in the United States, or do you have international exposure, or do you want to Do you have any plans on penetrating the international market?
Yeah, so here's how we'll do international. So what we'll do is we'll sell master franchise rights. So just like I explained what I did in Massachusetts for another company called Fitness Together, I bought the rights to the state and I split everything with the franchisor, the initial fee, ongoing royalties. So we'll carve up Europe, and anything international will be someone will come in via the rights to a big area,
Mm-hmm.
initial deposit, and then then we'll just split all the fees, and then we will, massively train that individual to
Mm-hmm.
basically be like us in that market. They're like the franchisor in that new market.
Got it. The reason I brought that up is because once again, when you kind of go into the international territory, you're dealing with different government, different regulations, so it can be a little bit, I would say, a lot of stress on someone like you who is the franchisor back home in United States. I know you mentioned in the beginning that before you opened the StretchMed Studios, you read your market, you read your competitors. So my question to you is, what sets StretchMed apart in this from the rest of them in this industry?
Yeah, so here's the big one. So basically, our competitors teach, one of them has 26 stretches that they teach their therapists, and they say you can do whatever you want as long as you use these 26 stretches. So complete autonomy with
Mm-hmm.
what they do to you. The problem is that there's no adherence to volume. So someone could do 6 or 8 or 12 stretches, a different therapist could do 26. So what we did is we created a stretch, and then another competitor uses like a belt system, which there's zero reason scientifically or
Mm-hmm.
medically you would use a belt to strap someone in. The body, think about the body, it doesn't move in exact planes. So
Mm-hmm.
there's no reason you would stretch it in exact planes. And the fumbling around with a belt, you're wasting time that you could be stretching. So what we did is we essentially, it took 9 months. We literally spent 9 months in stretch. So we methodically move around the body, saving
Mm-hmm.
seconds and minutes to just get as much stretching in as possible. And then, the muscular therapist had a lot to do with it, athletic trainers, as I mentioned. So the best way to explain it, our stretch and their stretch in the same 50 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
even if the techniques were exactly the same, we're
Mm-hmm.
just doing twice the stretching.
Got it.
Just like if you saw 2 personal trainers and one just did twice the work than the other
Mm-hmm.
one, you leave the gym and say, wow, that trainer was amazing. So that's kind of, and then the customization inside our 50-minute stretch, there's 20 things that we PNF. And you've heard this term, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. So if you came
Right.
in, I'd say, hey, Sid, how you feeling? You'd say, good. Anything you want to focus on today? And you say, yeah, you know what? My right hip's bugging me a little bit. Say, all right, so I know I have 20 PNFs I'm going to customize on you. So now I'm going to PNF your whole lower body, or I'm going to double PNF your right hip and static stretch your left side. Next time you come in at your shoulder, next time you come in at your neck. So we still adhere to the volume and just carved out a piece of it for customization for that individual.
Got it. So Brian, now as a franchisee, if someone wants to reach out to you for this opportunity, what is the best way for them to contact you?
StretchMedStudios.com,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a own a studio link. They can click that, fill out a form. If they're international, just fill anything out, put it in the notes somewhere, and we'll talk to you. I'm on LinkedIn, Brian R. Cook on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, StretchMed is just gonna be one of many companies that get created, and I'm in the process of building just teams, just building, getting super talented people on my team, letting them do their best work. And I'm just gonna stay in that creation
Mm-hmm.
state and just be an analyst, just look at my numbers, do all the financial modeling and
Right.
making sure we have capital and we grow at the right rate.
And do you have, I assume you must have investors on board?
Not yet. So, all retained earnings so far, which is good. So I have a couple calls today with private equity. So we're entertaining it. We may not need it at this level because, again, there's an initial fee that everyone pays before we begin work. So that initial fee essentially covers the cost of getting you open.
Okay.
And then the ongoing royalty covers the cost of us providing that ongoing support.
Got it. And also, Brian, we will actually put all the link of your website, the social media handles as well in the description of this video below. Brian, anything else that you think you would like to mention regarding StretchMed Studios here?
Yeah, I think what I'm really excited about is that we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 table studios now. So we're actually negotiating one in downtown San Diego on the busiest strip in La Jolla. And it's 387 square feet, and it's only going to have 2 tables in it.
Okay.
But it's primo real estate, and we can open it from 6 in the morning till 8 at night, 7 days a week. So it's just a very nimble, and it can be. And now the cost to open a StretchMed will probably be as little as $60,000, all the way up to maybe 180 if it's a full blown 4 table model. And we don't get any build out allowance from the landlord. A lot of times we negotiate the landlord to do the build out for us, and that's what gets the cost down. So, yeah, great opportunity. Any of your listeners want to franchise their businesses? Happy to give them some pointers because that's my passion. They can reach out to me as well. And yeah, cool.
Perfect, Brian. This actually, this was very interesting, and I learned a lot about the franchise model as well, since I have always been intrigued, how the franchising model works. So, Brian, once again, we want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be our guest today, and we want to wish you all the very best from our end.
Thanks for having me again, Sid. You as well. Have an awesome weekend.